So I'm back at Waterville Point. I wasn't going to fish today, but the wind is just too nice not to give it a try. And this spot should be fishing well today. It's one of the few spots where in this light wind I'm almost guaranteed ripple. And I know the wind's going to change a little bit today, but whether it's northeast, north or northwest, I'll always have ripple here. So I thought this would be a good point to start. I've seen fish around here all week. I fished here yesterday, didn't get a thing because the conditions just weren't great. It's been bright sunshine all week, which has made fishing really hard. Fishing a washing line, I've got a booby on the point, and I've got two buzzers. I'm going to fish pretty much static, which will be pretty boring to watch if there's no fish. I've already heard a couple of fish splashing around. I've seen a couple further up the bank, so I think they're in the area. When I fish the washing line, I'll be... Oh, there's one right in front of me. Oh my goodness, there's fish here. So the fish are right in front of me. Actually closer into the bank than I'm fishing. So if I've got the right flies and tactics, we should get some action pretty quickly. So I'm starting straight washing line so the flies are on the surface. If I don't get anything with a couple of casts with that, I'll then... Oh, that was a fish right near my flies. It's on! Oh, it's actually... Oh, excellent! First cast! Excellent! I saw the take as well, which was even better. I saw the boil on the surface before I felt the fish. Oh, and it's coming, one of those ones that's coming towards me. I don't like that. You know I don't like that. I keep saying that. I'd rather it went further away, but God, it's almost under my rod tip already. Come on, swim away. I love it. That's the second time this season I've come down here and fished this spot in this wind and got a fish on the very first cast. So there's something clearly that I know about this point. This is one of these places that I just know what works under certain conditions. Static buzzers in this north east wind always work. I don't think this is particularly big, but I've not been able to buy a fish this week. It's been really, really, really difficult. It's just been bright sunshine everywhere I've gone. Now where's that fish? I've got net cam on as well, so hopefully you might be able to see it under the water. It's on the booby. This thing has come and taken a static booby. I mean, this is a kamikaze fish. That doesn't happen very often. Normally when I'm fishing this setup, they'll take... The booby's really just there to suspend the flies. It's very rare that... Mistake I also made was not fully extending the net. I didn't think I would need to, but I think I probably... Oh, get away. I'm making a right mess of this. So, now it's coming in. Right. Right, so it's just a stocky. I think it's just a stocky, but it's always nice to get a fish on the first cast. It's swimming around quite happily, so I think we can let this one go straight back. Come on. Point the right way. Right, thank you. Yeah, again, so my mission wasn't to catch a fish on the first cast today, but still managed to do it. That fish took the booby. That does not resemble anything that is in the water. But hey, I don't mind. I've not been able to buy a fish all week and I get one on the first cast. I'm probably the ugliest fly in my box. When I'm waxing lyrical about fishing the imitative patterns. Okay, I'd like to get one on the buzzers because that to me is what they should be feeding on. But that was a visual take. I saw the splash and I thought, has that taken the fly? Because I didn't feel anything. And it had, which was tremendous. Now here, I don't really get much casting practice because I don't really need to cast very far. In this particular spot, really just a few rod lengths is enough because you're straight in front of the fish. That was really nice. And actually, I've got way more line out there than I need. So I can cast it. Oh, that was a fish right next to my flies again. I think we're in for a good morning. Well, I mean, it's been a good morning already because I've been out fishing lots this week. I fished in 3 separate places yesterday. I fished in Greenbank, then Transformer, then I fished here, then I went back to Transformer again, and I couldn't get a fish anywhere. There were fish boiling all over the surface, but they just wouldn't take a fly. I really like this spot. I've had all of my big brown trout in this particular spot between here and the trees. I'll pull this in a bit faster. See if we can provoke an aggressive... Oh, lovely fish out in the bay again. They seem to be further out. There's not much we can do about that, unfortunately. We have to fish where we fish. Oh, there's a fish down there. I can see the ripple in the water. I'm going to see if I can cover it. It's weird, I've got 2 casts depending on how much I load the rod. I've got one that works well with a little bit more loading, and then the flick works with very little loading. But I'm certainly using a lot less effort than I was. Again, there are fish in the area. I've seen quite a few moving about, but not one tug. There was that follow. That fish followed me in to the side, but I've no idea what it was following. Rob will tell me off, because Rob, who's got the B&B on the corner here, says I should be fishing completely static, but I've been finding the fish like a little bit of movement. So I'm giving the fly a little bit of movement, a gentle figure of 8, just to bring it in and to cover the water between me and the end of the cast. The wind here is perfect this morning. The fish are going to be moving up past this point constantly, and there'll probably be quite a few that are not resident here but will stay here because of the food that's been blown off the trees that are right next to me. You can't see them, but they're here. Now, I don't like getting them on the booby because although I've got a fish, the buzzers may not be the right fly. It might be that I have to switch to nymphs. I'm going to have to be very careful here and just change the flies gradually until I find the imitative natural pattern. Now the fish are closer in, so the next cast I'm going to throw closer to the bank. So we'll try this one a bit closer to the bank. Almost the spot that I would wade in. Right, that's as much line as I need to cast. And I'll let it sit static for a little bit, and then I'll do the slow retrieve. I've had two fish here. Last fish I had was last Thursday here, but my camera battery had run out, so I never caught it on film. This is one of these spots that when I get it right, I can catch a lot of fish. I've seen me catching easily into double figures here when the conditions are right. And the conditions today feel right. I'm just a bit disturbed about catching that fish on the booby. It may be a false indicator of what the fish are taking. That fish just may have gone past and been angry and grabbed it. So if I don't get a fish on the next cast with the buzzers on the booby, I'm going to put a nymph on the point and hedge my bets and see if the fish are maybe sitting a little bit further down in the water. I've seen the odd one heading and tailing, but under these conditions I would expect it to be alive, and it's not at the moment. So back, we'll now cast a bit further out again, so I'm not as far out as the first cast. I'm doing a gradual fan shape. That went out really nicely. Fish static for a little bit. If I don't get any interest on this cast, I'm taking the point fly off and I'm putting a nymph on. So they're definitely here, and I think they're definitely feeding today, because they seem to be following the wind. Right, I'm going to pull this in and put the nymph on. It won't be long now before the fish switch and start feeding on pin fry. Last year I had a really bad time with that because I didn't know what they were feeding on. I'd never really fished those kind of tactics before. And one of the local anglers of Green Bank showed me what the fly he was using. It was basically a gold ribbed here's ear, but with one of these foam buoyant heads. And fish went mad for it. I just threw the fly out, left it, and the fish just came up and grabbed it. And I got the biggest brown trout that I've ever caught in Rutland water in those conditions. First ever fish on a dry fly on Rutland, and it happened to be my biggest brown trout. Oh, that was a take. That was a really gentle take. So I've got to persevere with the flies I've got on, because I am getting some interest. Gentle takes. Oh, that was a fish. Missed it. I was too slow. And then I felt the boil. I saw a slight movement under the surface. So these fish are very tentative today. And that one I should have got. If I'd been a little bit quicker, I might have connected with it. So the fish are not feeding voraciously, but they are taking an interest in what's being put in front of them. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to put a candy fab on the point, and then I'm going to put one of my black nymphs on as well. So we now have trusty black dialback on the top. I've left the green buzzer in the middle, because everybody says green is the colour at this time, and I've currently got the nymph on the top. I'll fish this as is for now, and then I'll put the fab on, because effectively I've only changed one thing at a time. When I was trained as a scientist, one of the things we learned was the importance of single variable testing, which means if you're doing an experiment, change one thing at a time. Because if you only change one thing at a time, you know what has caused the effect. If you change two things at once, you don't know which of those two changes is responsible. So the single variable test was one of our gospel rules of effective product testing, so that we knew exactly what was responsible for the positive or negative impact. And that was another fish just rising to the left of me. I'd like to get a cuckoo on microphone. There's a lot of cuckoos over near Transformer in the woods on the road up to the peninsula. I went for a walk the other day and heard about, it was either the same cuckoo 3 times or 3 separate cuckoos, I'm not quite sure. But that fish was right in front of me. That fish is about 2 rod lengths out. Cheeky devil. And it's been weird. Sometimes, I've talked about this before, but I've caught fish on buzzers when I've been fishing them fast here. And people think I'm mad, but it's happened to me quite a few times when I've been fishing flies quite fast. The fish have come and taken. I thought we were going to have lots of fish this morning. I really thought we would get loads. But I think with this changeable weather we've had, the fish in the margins are probably a little bit confused. They've been switching on and off feeding all week. I'm really pleased I caught that fish, because not catching that fish would have meant that I hadn't caught a fish this week. It's quite unusual for me. But it's been one of those funny weeks, so we can't really tell. The last fish I got here was on the fab. Oh, there's flies on the surface. Well, thanks for coming back and having another day fly fishing on Rutland water with me. If you like the video, please make sure that you do hit the like button, and I'd be even more delighted if you subscribe to the channel. I'm seeing tiny buzzers in there, and I mean really tiny buzzers. I remember, I think one of the very first videos I shot was of all the fish cruising around in Dickinson's Bay. And it was one of these little green buzzers that did the trick that day. And they wouldn't touch anything else. They went mad for the green buzzer, but wouldn't touch the black ones. And it's quite a distinct colour, this. It's not exactly subtle, but it's just got a nice sheen to it. So I haven't used this buzzer this year. That's the thing I love about these Witchwood rocket tapers, is they're not expensive. So you're not breaking the bank when you do decide to change your line.